Hi, welcome to Patchcast, the video program here on KMVT for the online news and community site, Patch.com. And I am your host, Claudia Cruz, with my other hosts.
Hi, I'm L.A. Chung with Los Altos Patch.
And I'm Ann Ernst with Cupertino Patch.
And we'll get right to the news. This weekend, welcome back everyone, it was Memorial Day weekend, and one of the good news that we got from the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office was that DUIs were down 44% from last year. That's significant.
That's
almost
good.
I mean, it's almost half the number of DUIs from last year. It dropped from 144 arrests to 80, so that's a decrease of 64. And in Mountain View, unlike Los Altos or Cupertino, where there weren't any arrests, we did have 5, but again, that's probably 50% less than last year if statistically those numbers hold. So it's good to avoid driving if you are. We want people to enjoy the local bar scene, but it's great to avoid driving and risking your life and somebody else's. I believe there was some interesting news last week with the president's visit to the Bay Area.
Yes. I went and covered his arrival, and I think one of the things, I'll stay away from the election talk for just now, but talk about how the process of greeting the president is rather lengthy for security reasons, of course. I mean, it's for his security as well as ours. You arrive quite a bit earlier than he does, typically a couple of hours, and go through several security checks. And so I took some pictures so that people who don't get to cover the president's arrival can see what it's like to go and be scanned and have all of your belongings looked at and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But he was in town for a little fundraising. It is election season, and he kind of swooped through the Bay Area. I believe he was only in town for about 16 hours.
Wow.
And he did greet your mayor at Moffett Field.
Yes.
So we have some photos of that on Patch as well, and I can't think of who the other.
Sunnyvale. I know it's the Sunnyvale Mayor, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo,
yes.
And NASA Ames Director Pete Warden were also on the tarmac.
Yes.
I remember actually because I had the opportunity to do the same thing a few months ago, but I think everybody takes turns. It happened to be Mountain View, so the Mountain View mayor gets invited each time. But in the past, it had been Chuck Reed, mayor of San Jose, there as well. But it is election season, so I believe that there is the June 5th primary next week.
Yes, and in Cupertino there is Measure H, which is a $220 million bond for the school district that will add $30 per $100,000 valuation to property owners. And the money will be targeted toward repairs in the schools, I believe building new classrooms and improving the technology, which I can attest to. They need the updated technology. They are behind, and we are in Silicon Valley, and we should be using state-of-the-art technology in our schools. So that money will help, although there are people who are opposed to it. It's not a given that it's going to pass.
Well, people move into the Cupertino School District, either to Los Altos, Cupertino, Sunnyvale, San Jose, strictly for the schools.
Correct.
So, you want your kids to be on top of things, I would think, and it certainly does help real estate values. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's constantly spoken about.
Well, in the alphabet soup of measures, we have Measure G in Mountain View, and it's a similar school bond measure. So it's to raise $198 million to seismically retrofit some of the school buildings, remove some of the hazmat materials like asbestos that may still be lingering, repair, upgrade just the rooms in general, modernize the computer labs, the science labs, and the $198 million, the way that would work is that it possibly add another $30 per every $100,000 to the value of your home as far. So it's very, that's if you're interested in helping out the schools, that's that's something to consider on June 5th, and maybe you can get yourself to the ballot box and vote for that.
Mm-hmm. We have open primaries too.
Yes, top 2, which is going to be interesting and not party related. So we should be seeing a little bit of a change from previous elections, and something that affects many of our areas, many of our cities, is the race for assembly member for now District 28, which with the redistricting, things have shifted around a little bit, and some of the cities are in new territory, kind of. Paul Fong is finding himself in a situation like that. He's been the assembly member for many of our cities, Cupertino in particular, and now he has a little shift, and he's actually facing an incumbent, which, from what I've been hearing, there's been a few people who have told me that he's pretty nervous about this, Chad Walsh. Chad Walsh was a registered Republican, and now he has changed his affiliation to independent. So he's, you know, our regions are fairly Democratic, and he may find himself with a little bit of a challenge, but Paul Fong is taking him very seriously from what I hear, and he's not guaranteeing himself the win just because he's the incumbent.
Well, I've heard that with the open primary, it will probably draw a lot more independents to the ballot box, because now you don't have to vote for your political party anymore. So it will be a very interesting June 5th in our districts, considering that, again, the presidential election seems to have been a little decided for the moment. You know, one of the things that is great about Patch, and as we're having this conversation about politics, is our Local Voices blog. And for those who don't know, we have dozens of local residents who can share their voices on our sites, including, talk about politics, the mayor of Mountain View. He has a weekly blog called This Week with the Mayor, and he goes through, I'm pretty sure he just sits down, looks at his calendar of events and says, this is what I did on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and he'll talk about people who he meets. And again, he wrote about meeting the President Obama last week. That was, I guess, one of his highlights and on his bucket list of things.
Sure.
And one of the things that, politically speaking, affects Mountain View and definitely Sunnyvale is what's going on with Moffett Field and Hangar One and the stripping of the asbestos from this iconic Bay Area landmark, and some of the funds and where the funds are coming from to continue that project. And apparently that was something that Mayor Mike Kaspersak, Mountain View Mayor Mike Kaspersak, and President Obama had this moment about on the tarmac. Oh, wow. So they spoke about that. But in addition to Mayor Mike, we also have Cheryl Burke, who is unfortunately didn't win Dancing with the Stars this year, but she's a two-time champion of that ABC show, which had 14 seasons, and her dance studio is here in Mountain View, and she blogs bi-weekly about ballroom etiquette, how she started dancing, some of the dances that she prefers, picking the right shoes, how to pick the right partner. So certain things that, again, these local voices can add to the diversity of our sites. So it's not just news all the time, but there's interesting news topics. What kind of bloggers are on Cupertino and Los Altos?
In Los Altos, we have Maureen Jones, who writes about travel. She has traveled to so many countries multiple times and stayed in some of the most top-notch hotels. Her travel agency is a part of the Signature Network, which before I was editing her, I didn't know anything about, but it is really a top-drawer organization. So it's really interesting to hear her take on different countries. She's an Australia specialist and a New Zealand specialist. Since she hails from Scotland herself, she's written a bit about single malt Scotch and being on the whiskey trail, and it's always fun to read Maureen's stories about places you can go. If you want to daydream a little bit, it's a nice little diversion for a little while. And then we have another blogger who I think performs a really good service for parents. She blogs about children's books, and she reviews them. She talks about why she likes them, you know, what they will do, you know, whether you're, you know, she kind of, I guess they're kid tested, so that you don't have to, you know, go to the, you know, you don't have to have, as a grandparent or as a parent, you don't have to go to the bookstore and figure out what do I want to get, or, you know, you can, you know, they are kid tested. And she has her own blog called One Great Book. So if you like what you read on Patch, you know, on Los Altos Patch, you can also then go to her blog and look at her whole compendium of books that she's, you know, she's reviewed. It's a really great service. We also have Greentown Los Altos, which blogs about their initiatives and some of the things that they're doing with respect to, you know, sustainability. And trying to affect that in the town, in the city of Los Altos and Los Altos Hills. You know, everything from solar to, you know, who recycles your waste, to trying to participate in the Drive Less Challenge. As a matter of fact, through their stewardship, Los Altos and Los Altos Hills won the Drive Less Challenge, and that was just held in April.
That kind of goes along with one of my bloggers, Gary Jones, who started blogging for Cupertino Rotary and talking about all the various things that they do, but he's kind of branched out now. He calls himself the village antagonist now. So he brings up topics that, you know, he wants to get put out there, that he wants the community to start talking about, and one of his passions is getting people to drive less within the city because traffic is so bad in spots. And he's really an advocate for bringing in better bus system, he started a grassroots group on Patch. They call themselves Friends of Cupertino Transit System, and they are lobbying to get a shuttle to come through somehow and transport people from the library to the senior center to the schools and things like that. So he's been very active in that, and now there's a little group that gets together regularly. They're meeting with city members, they're meeting with the VTA, other transportation groups. So he's one of my very active and great bloggers. Another one is Hema Kundargi, who is she's had her own cooking show. So she sometimes reposts some of her videos from her original cooking show. She shares recipes that sound absolutely delicious, and I know some of the readers who have tried some of her recipes say that they're great. So she's a fun blogger to have on. And then Mason McCarty is, I think I've talked about him before, he's my cartoonist. And he has a great sense of humor with his cartoons. He likes to get into the political cartoons. He has a very unique eye for seeing things, as political cartoonists will. And then he's also started a cartoon for Cupertino Patch in particular. But Mason's done some great work. I have a teenage fashion blogger too.
That's the trend. So cool.
Yes. So she normally what she does is she'll go through fashion magazines and fashion sites and pick out designs and styles of, you know, like either prom dresses or wedding gowns, things like that. And then she talks about what she likes about it and points out interesting details. But she did something different this last time that she blogged. She found kind of a how-to on how to alter a t-shirt into a fun summer t-shirt. So she took just a plain old t-shirt and did some sewing, some cutting, and it's really cute. She's really very talented, and I'm waiting. Her mom told me that she just I think it was at Lynbrook, they had a fashion show, and two of the models wore her own designs that she designed and sewed up herself, and her name is Kelsey Hurwitz, and I think she's fabulous, so I'd like to give her a big shout out.
Yeah, it's great to repurpose fashion. I mean, I have so many old t-shirts I was just packing, and I'm like, oh, maybe I could cut it up and pin it or do something fun with it, because some of them are just way too big, because I just have large, I just ended up with large t-shirts that I've never worn because they're too big, but maybe I can just cut them up and do stuff.
You'll have to look at her blog.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to learn stuff from her. In addition to some the bloggers I mentioned earlier, we have in Mountain View, again, this is the great thing about the blogging platform. You can bring in so many voices. So we have Mountain View rugby team, the youth rugby, they blog on our site. So they do like a player of the week, or they give shout outs to the local businesses who support them. We also have the Day Worker Center, and they have been very, they have a computer lab there, which I'll mention a little bit later because we have some interviews coming up, but they have a computer lab there where they're teaching job training courses and computing classes. And part of their job training is maintaining a blog. So they blog about their life experiences, and then they will share those blogs on Patch, which is a great way to sort of get an understanding of how someone went from their country of origin and their childhood experiences to living in Silicon Valley and trying to make ends meet here. The community center, Community School for Music and Arts, which I know has a lot of students from our area, also blogs on our site about their different performances and their students. And I want to give a shout out quickly to KMVT board director, Alicia Crank, who also blogs on Mountain View Patch because she was one of our original bloggers. And she does a show called, a blog called Single in Silicon Valley. And so it's about her experience in the dating scene and trying to get people to just understand what it's like to be single in the area. And lastly, she's actually a Los Altos resident, but on the school a trustee on the Mountain View Wisman School District is Ellen Wheeler, and she is with the League of Women Voters. And she blogs about education policy in particular. She's very active in our school district and trying to get the education of our kids to have to be on the forefront of our mind.
I sat next to Ellen one time when she was attending the Bullis Charter School meeting. She was sent as an observer by the League of Women Voters, Mountain View, Los Altos. It's the Los Altos Mountain View League of Women Voters chapter, and just sort of reporting on how boards conduct themselves. And then it later got mentioned at the county school board of how well the Bullis Charter School was comporting itself during its meetings, and based on Ellen Wheeler's observations for the League of Women Voters. And speaking of Bullis Charter School, it's a busy season. The school district is still in the process of negotiating a long-term agreement with the Bullis Charter School, and the clock is ticking because there are a number of things that have to be done. If you're going to start the school year, there are a number of things that have to be done. Classrooms have to be prepared. If you need to bring in portables, those have to be placed. So settling the question of where the school will be just for the 2012-2013 year, which is only a few months from now, is very important. And last night there was a joint school district city council meeting where pretty much the main focus of their discussion had to do with all things Bullis Charter School. There was some discussion about traffic safety at Egan Junior High and Block Junior High schools, because the city's responsibility has to do with traffic and traffic safety, whether it's crosswalks or lights or those sorts of things. So that's why they have a joint meeting. But a lot of the discussion was around finding a site for Bullis Charter School and what that involved. There's a movement afoot by some parents to try to essentially reopen the Hillview school site, which was purchased by the city many years ago and used as a community center. That's the heart of the recreation department. The senior center is there. Oh, okay. There's a preschool called Children's Corner there. Music for minors. There's a whole plethora of activities that go on there. But there are parents who say, can we retake it as a school? Is that possible to do that? And so there's been some very interesting talks. Last night's meeting lasted 6.5 hours.
Wow.
From 5:30 p.m. to shortly after midnight. It was a marathon undertaking. There were a lot of people in the room. It was held at the city council chambers. That holds about 100 plus people. They had overflow into the Los Altos Youth Center, which was like down the walkway in the Civic Center. That room was pretty full. I had pictures that I ran this morning that was some of them were contributed by parents. This is what the room looked like when it was full. And gradually, as the hours wore on, people started leaving. But I guess last night's meeting, they weren't supposed to take any action, but it was a chance to, as the mayor said, to create a level playing field. Everybody knows the same information. We all start from the same baseline. We may have we understand each other's positions. There was a lot of staking out of positions, and there was a little bit of tension because, of course, the city is not really crazy about giving up its community center for what. And so it was a really interesting meeting. I don't know where this leaves the school board right now because the clock is still ticking. Everyone kind of says, everyone from the city of some Mountain View officials to some Los Altos officials saying, well, yeah, these sites in our cities, I don't think they'll work. Maybe you should check with somebody else. And so there's all this kind of check with somebody else kind of responses. And it's a little bit difficult, I think, for the district right now to figure out what next. So
looking for a location is a contentious.
Last night, Ron Packard suggested that the tent site should be in Mountain View because so much of the building and the development is taking place north of El Camino Real. I mean, yes, there have been a couple hundred units that have been approved on the Los Altos side of El Camino, but there are quite a few on the Mountain View side, and if the idea is to reduce the amount of traffic and how many parents are crazily driving through the streets trying to get their kids to school in time, he was suggesting that Mountain View would be a good location.
Well, they did meet the Los Altos School District and Bobolas Charter School officials met with Mayor Mike Kaspersak about a week and a half ago, which he blogged about on the site. But yes, I mean, 25% of Mountain View students attend Los Altos School District schools. And a large part of that happens to be, like you mentioned, on that El Camino San Antonio Road corridor area. And actually there's a lot of development going on there right now. Phase 1 of the San Antonio Shopping Center site includes a 300 unit apartment building, mostly single bedrooms, maybe 2 bedrooms, and whether or not some of those people will have children that will attend the schools is still to be seen. It's a couple of years on the road, but I know that they're planning for that eventuality. But the phase 2, which was the big issue last week, was that they want to put in the tallest building in Mountain View might go on the phase 2 site, which would be near the corner of California and San Antonio Road. It's not for residential, it's for an office building.
Is there a hotel related to that?
And they're hoping that in putting in that office building, some of the revenues generated could help pay for a $30 million 4-star hotel in Mountain View, which is there's a lot of complaints that there aren't any good accommodations for out-of-town guests in Mountain View. People usually go to Sunnyvale, will go to Palo Alto.
If you want to get a 4-star hotel, you have to go to Menlo Park.
Or Menlo Park. Or, yeah. Besides the Four
Alto,
Seasons.
Menlo Park, yeah.
Yes. But Mountain View with Google in the area and LinkedIn really wants to get a 4-star hotel. So that went before the Environmental Planning Commission last week. And tonight is actually a conversation about another 2 buildings with 193 units that would replace the San Antonio Inn and the Hong Kong restaurant, which I know you like.
I do.
So that's, again, market value apartments, 1 and 2 bedrooms, which could add more children to the school district, right? So that's part of the conversation as to why Mountain View needs to participate and sit down in the talks. One of the things that's going on, we had, going back to the Day Worker Center, I said I was going to go back to that. They got $10,000 worth of technology equipment from the Microsoft Silicon Valley campus. Maria, tell me a little bit of what's going on today and what does this mean for the center?
Well, we are really expecting a big delivery of computers, and I said big because it's really meaningful for us. but it's some equipment, and it's really meaningful for the Day Worker Center because allow us to, first of all, start the partnership with Microsoft, and then improve our services, providing more training for the day workers.
A few things. My name's Sid Espinoza. I work in philanthropy and corporate citizenship programs at Microsoft, and we had heard from people here at the Day Worker Center in Mountain View, where of course our Silicon Valley headquarters are located, that they were looking to build out a computer lab and to provide more learnings, better facilities to get people to learn English, to get them to maybe use Skype and connect back to folks back home, to really be able to connect and communicate in the way that the world is today, online and through computers. And so we have actually already for the last few years been really focused in our philanthropy on workforce development and skills training programs. We've been working with TransAccess to work with the disabled community, Catholic Charities, with recent refugees. We've been working with the Women's Initiative for women entrepreneurs and a host of other organizations here in the Bay Area. The Day Worker Center, though, we hadn't had a chance to connect with, but we know the organization very well, appreciate the work that they do, helping folks who just want to work and want to be able to provide for their families and have a good quality of life. And so we were able to step in and come here today and provide laptops and provide Rosetta Stone and Office and other equipment that's needed so they can build out a lab to be able to provide these sorts of trainings and skills development for people who come here to the Day Worker Center.
Contributed 6 laptops, 6 servers, like a lot of goodies, including Rosetta Stone in English so people can learn. They even got an Xbox so they can. He's like, they can't work all the time. And it's also good for fitness because they have.
So nice. Yeah, good thing to close with the winners of the photo contest from the Mid-Peninsula Open Space District. And we have some.
Yes, we have. There were 5 winners. There were 5 categories: artistic, contemporary, landscapes, people, plant life, and wildlife. And I will skip right over to the Cupertino winner, who is Chow Hong Liu, who won for the landscapes for his work on Sunset from Turtle Rock, which he took at Long Ridge Open Space Preserve. We also have a resident from Saratoga who took a picture at the Piketty Ranch Open Space Preserve. Charles Tu for his work on Explore. And there is a Mountain View resident, Yay. Ken Fox, who took Late Afternoon with Ancient Oaks at the Russian Ridge Open Space Preserve. So there's a couple other winners too, but we'll just stick with the ones who came from our communities.
Yeah, no, we love, that's great. I mean, the photography and the open space preserve and just the ability to just go out there and I remember your your video with the young guy a couple weeks ago.
Pathways Run.
Pathways Run. I mean, how beautiful it is to be able to have those things there. And I think, I know that since we still have a little bit extra time, I wanted to give a shout out to our graduates because this week and next week is graduation. So congrats to Mountain View Los Altos Union High School District students. And I know that May 30th was Alta Vista High School.
That's tonight.
That's tonight. And then on Friday we have...
Friday we have Los Altos High School and Mountain View High School. And then I think we go, the next week goes into your territory, right?
Fremont Union High School District, yes. There will be, so Homestead, Cupertino High School.
Shout out for Homestead, I went to Homestead.
And Lynbrook and Monte Vista. All start like either Thursday or Friday.
Great, great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for another Patchcast, again, a video program produced at the studios of KMVT. So thank you to the cast and crew of this community news channel, and to my colleagues, L.A. Chang with Los Altos Patch, which can be found at losaltos.patch.com, and Ernst with Cupertino Patch, which can be found at cupertino.patch.com, and I'm again Claudia Cruz, Mountain View Patch, mountainview.patch.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again next week.